histone modification. And the epigenetic remodeling in the DNA methylation is also done. So during reprogramming, the somatic cell-specific DNA methylation patterns are reversed by the active DNA demethylation mediated by the TET enzymes. This is 10-11 translocation enzymes. Here you can see the histones on which the chromatin is bound here. When the DNA is methylated, it will not be translated. So we will have to demethylate it, and the histone modification is we have to remove the open up the chromatin. So when the chromatin is accessible, then it becomes a epigenetic modification there. So that is the molecular mechanism which happens in the reprogramming. And what are the methods of inducing pluripotency? So how are we going to open up the chromatin here? The most common method of reprogramming somatic cells into iPSCs relies on the delivery of exogenous pluripotency factors via viral transduction, with the main advantage of high efficiency of gene delivery to various types of cells. So when we want to provide a gene or a factor into a cell which has to go into the nucleus, we use the viral transduction, where the viral DNA goes and binds itself to the host DNA, and then it causes the translation of that particular cell. So the various viral vector methods for obtaining iPSCs have been described. There are retrovirus, adenoviruses and adeno-associated viruses, herpes simplex and centaviruses. All these are different types of viruses. So the retrovirus has a partial DNA, so it can bind with the iPSCs, the nucleus of that particular host cell, and then it forms the iPSCs here. So this is the centavirus or adenovirus, where it will not form any connection with the nucleus, but it will give the factors inside the cytoplasm. So there are different kinds of transduction, and this is how the factors are sent inside the nucleus of the host cell. And it has not yet been possible to obtain induced human iPSCs using small molecules alone, due to significant differences between the mice and humans in epigenetic memory and pluripotency signaling pathways. So the somatic cell, the two factors CMYC and KLF4 will cause immortalization, and once it is immortalized, it can either become an uncontrolled proliferation of tumor cells, or we can add OCT3 and 4 to form the nullipotent embryonic stem cells like cells, and then SOX2, KLF4, these factors are added to form the pluripotent cells. So these are the steps in forming of induced pluripotent stem cell. And they have taken keratinocytes also, which have been shown to be reprogrammed more quickly in efficiency than fibroblasts, and are more accessible sources. They can be isolated from hair in addition to punch biopsy. So keratinocytes are easy to obtain. So this is how the transduction of that particular nucleus is happening, either by using small molecules, by using non-viral system, viral delivery of proteins, or manipulation of cell culture, miRNA. These are the non-DNA methods, these are the DNA methods, and the somatic cells are converted into the induced pluripotent stem cells. So iPSCs derived from skin cells carry a significant disadvantage in the increased content of common mutations associated with exposure of UV radiation. And iPSCs from fibroblasts exhibit genomic heterogeneity. These are the two drawbacks from using keratinocytes as well as fibroblasts, and this has to be taken into account while doing those remodeling. So here iPSCs are used for disease modeling, drug discovery, and cell therapy applications. Disease modeling, iPSC-based cellular models can reveal human-specific phenotypes and molecular mechanisms that do not necessarily manifest in animal models. So sometimes when we try to design a drug or study a disease on animals, the same thing is not going to work on humans. So these kind of iPSC-based cellular models can help in revealing the specific phenotypes of that particular disease. So iPSCs can be differentiated into otherwise inaccessible cell types, enabling modeling of a wide spectrum of diseases including neurological disorders, COVID-19 and cancer. So here we can see in regenerative medicine, iPSC cell stock can be used in different areas, in neurons, retinal cells, heart muscles, neural stem cells, platelets, immune cells, cartilage, all these things are being used. This is how the disease mechanism is elucidated. So they developed the fibroblast derived from a deceased patient, the fibroosseous dysplasia patient. They derived that fibroblast, and then they developed the embryonic stem cells. Then they added a few factors and then found out where the problem is happening and what is causing the problem. So the studying of that disease mechanism is very easy with the iPSC derived cells. So it can be used in regenerative medicine as well and drug development. Aging. So the process of somatic cell reprogramming to iPSCs is associated with a nearly complete erasure of aging associated epigenetic marks and phenotypes. So iPSCs can erase the age related phenotypes here. Aging associated phenotypes can also be induced by ectopic expression of progerin, a truncated variant of laminin A, which is sufficient to induce senescence and aging associated phenotypes in iPSCs derived neurons and other cells. So to study the age-related changes, these iPSCs and aging-associated phenotypes can also be developed. Aging-associated phenotypes are preserved if target cells are derived directly from the transdifferentiation without the iPSC technique. So when we take a fibroblast here and we directly transdifferentiate into a other lineage, then if the epigenetic factors are stored and the age-related associated phenotypes can be seen. But if we can convert the fibroblast into iPSCs and then do the differentiation, the epigenetic memory is erased. So the primary fibroblast can be transdifferentiated into neurons that exhibit aging associated phenotypes and epigenetic age signatures of the fibroblast donors. So this is how the aging is erased, either erased or it is kept for studying the phenotype. Next is drug discovery. So iPSCs derived cells enable phenotypic drug screening in human relevant cellular contexts, including disease specific cell types otherwise inaccessible from patients. So there was a patient from having ALS, which is sclerosis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. The cells were derived and then the motor neurons were differentiated from those iPS cells, and which caused cell death. So they were able to find out the mechanism of cell death which is happening in this, and then they tried different agents to stop the cell death and found that bosutinib, which is used for some other treatment, causing this prevention of cell death. So this is called drug repurposing, where the drug which is used for some other purposes is tried to treat another new novel purpose. So this is how they will be able to find the drug for that particular pathology using iPSCs. And iPSC derived cardiomyocytes and hepatocytes are used for cardiotoxicity and hepatotoxicity screening, providing human specific safety data. So here we can derive the safety data of particular drug using the iPSCs. Cell therapy applications. Either it can be an autologous therapy or an allogenic therapy. So in autologous cell therapy, somatic cells are reprogrammed from the patient's own cells, followed by differentiation into the required cell type for transplantation. Key advantages: immune compatibility, and there is less graft versus host disease. Long-term immunosuppression is generally not needed, and the time required for reprogramming and differentiation often several months. Here this is the drawback. It takes several months for reprogramming those cells from the patient himself or herself and then giving back to them as iPSCs. So what happens, this becomes unsuitable for acute conditions like stroke or myocardial infarction. We cannot wait for so long for these kind of patients. And the process is labor intensive and expensive. The cells can vary from one batch to another. So batch variation is also there. Genetic defects present in the patient's cells may also carry over into the iPSC derived cells. So these are the drawbacks of autologous transplantation. Whereas allogenic strategies based therapy use cells from unrelated donors, affecting both manufacturing and immune compatibility. And the allogenic approaches allow for scalable off-the-shelf manufacturing, making the pre-prepared cell products immediately available for patients. So when we see here the autologous cell therapy, from the patient the cells are taken, reprogrammed into iPSCs, then do some genetic corrections, then make a cellular product and then transplant. Whereas in allogenic therapy, we have a large pool of universal donors. Like for blood transfusion, we have universal donors. These donors are super donors where there is HLA compatibility. I'll be talking about in the journal discussion. So from them the iPSCs are taken and they are made low immunogenic and then they are stored. Then they are off the shelf, they are given to a large pool of recipients. So this is how the autologous therapy, allogenic therapy is carried out. So the key limitations and challenges: iPSCs from fibroblasts exhibit genomic heterogeneity, and epigenetic memory from the somatic cell of origin can persist in iPSCs, potentially biasing their differentiation towards the original lineage, and tumorigenicity risk. From the residual undifferentiated iPSCs requires rigorous quality control before clinical use. And iPSC cell-derived cells frequently exhibit fetal-like rather than adult phenotypes, limiting the modeling of adult-onset age-related diseases. And differentiation protocols for generating specific cell types such as neurons, hepatocytes, or pancreatic beta cells still being optimized. So the optimization process is always in the long run. It has to be done, and then we can produce lot of differentiated cells from the iPSCs.